Hello fellow crafters! Welcome to Home Buddy. Today, I'm going to show you how I made this adorable pincushion out of nothing but the fabric scraps left over from other projects. If you're like me, you probably have a huge collection of fabric left over from larger projects that you have no idea what to do with, but you don't want to just throw away. And this is a great way to take your unwanted remnants and turn them into a cute item you can actually use. I started by tracing a small cylinder roughly the size of my desired cushion onto pattern paper and measuring its diameter. My circle was exactly 3 inches, so I knew the circumference of the circle is roughly 9.4 inches total. I used this to draw a rectangle that was 9.4 inches long by 2 inches wide, and added a ½ inch seam allowance all around. I placed my desired fabric right side down and pinned the paper pattern over it. For smaller projects like this, I like to work on corkboard. That way I can easily hold both the fabric and pattern in one place using simple push pins. I trace and cut one rectangle and 2 of the circle pieces out of the fabric. These 3 pieces will make up the outer shell of my completed cushion. Here I'm just measuring the diameter of my traced circle to make sure that it's equal to 4 inches, so there will be 3 inches of actual circle and ½ inch seam allowance on either side. I take my fabric rectangle and fold it in half lengthwise, pinning the short sides together before sewing to create one continuous loop of fabric. Making sure that both right sides of my fabric were facing inward, I began to pin my first circle to the top of the loop of fabric I'd just sewn. I recommend taking your time with this step. It's a lot easier to repin fabric than it is to rip out a crooked seam and start over again. After much finagling, I was able to run it under my machine before cutting and trimming all of the excess. I did the same to the other side, but I left a small gap unfinished so I'd have a way to turn it out right side and fill it later. For the stuffing, I simply took my remaining pieces of fabric remnants and cut them into teeny tiny pieces resembling bits of confetti. Once I prepared what seemed like an adequate amount of stuffing, I could fill and seal my cushion using the ladder stitch. With that done, my cushion was completed. However, since mine was still looking pretty grim, mostly because I'm terrible at sewing circles, I decided to give my pillow some extra embellishment. I sewed a whip stitch around the top and bottom seams to tighten the fabric and create a lip around the circle border. To cover it, I cut 2 strips of bias tape from some leftover white fabric I had. If you've never made your own bias tape before, I advise you to take your time and use a good iron. But you could replace this bit with ribbon and it would work just as well. I pinned each strip so that it would cover the ugly lip of the whip stitch fabric, and then carefully sewed the tape in place using the tiniest whip stitches I could manage. Finally, all that was left was to take some leftover embroidery thread in a complementary color and whip stitch over the newly trimmed edges for a cute homemade effect. And voila! An adorable pincushion out of nothing but the leftover fabric inside your own home. Please let me know in the comments what you would have done for your own cushion, or if you have any further questions about my overall process. And if you liked this video, please consider subscribing to my channel for even more projects and fun for those at home or inside. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye!